Welcome to this video for the HTML class, and this is an opportunity if you need help beyond the book on how to get started with the Chapter 5 case study. The Chapter 5 case study is located on pages 122 and 123 of your textbook. Just as a refresher, your original document from Chapter 3 when you did the case study looked like this one. You have a Pacific Trails Resort, and this is the home page. There will be two more pages eventually coded. The one we've coded so far, C-O-D-E-D when I say coded, is the one called yurts. When you click that, you get the definitions of what yurts are, basically nice boats, which is where I would like to be right now personally, and I can click home to go back to the home page. Eventually, once we get through the Chapter 5 case study, we'll have something that looks a little more like this. Notice the difference in how this is enhanced. We now have Pacific Trails Resorts having a black box with white letters, the black background. Notice the blue background here, and just some additional enhancements comparing these two pages to each other. So that's basically how Chapter 3, which looks like this, and Chapter 5 after the case study exercise is completed will look. So it will give you an idea of what we're heading toward. In your Blackboard, you should have a folder that is attached, which when you download it will have a zipper on there. The zipper will have something called Chapter 5 Pacific, and in step 1 it says to create a folder on page 122 called Chapter 5 Pacific. I've basically already done this part for you. There was no point in your having to copy and paste there. The folder where the index and yurts HTML files are copied are right here. So basically what you have to do is just right click wherever you are on your computer, your jump drive, flash drive, your desktop, wherever you want it to be. Just right click the one that has the zipper on it. Mine is large for purposes of this video. Choose Extract All. And if you want to use just the default to extract it, you can just extract it right there. And you'll get a folder called Chapter 5 Pacific. And if you open that up, you will see the case study inside there, and you'll see index and yurts contained. I just did some clicking just to open it. You may have a folder inside a folder inside a folder. And again, if this is confusing to you, the main thing you want to make sure of at the end of the entire assignment, you want to make sure that the index page, which is right here, and I'll make this a little larger for video purposes so you can see it. You want to make sure that the index document, which contains this page once it's finished, the yurts page, which contains this document, but again, you're going to work with it. That's the old version. And something called a CSS or a cascaded style sheet document are included. So you'll have 3 items total once this assignment is completed. I would recommend opening, well, I'll start over. I apologize for that mishap. The first thing you're going to do in step 2 is to create an external style sheet. Now I'm going to assume that you've looked at the chapter, that you've not simply hunted for the answers, and that you've watched my videos to understand the concepts of this style sheet. Basically what you're doing here is you're taking all the definitions in your document that you want to enhance for the headings, for the body, and for any other parts of the web page that you want to especially decorate or design, and put them in a separate sheet. So what you want to do is go into some software. I recommend, of course, Notepad for simplicity, but again, that's up to you. And I'm going to pull Notepad off of this particular computer. And again, as always, if you need help, you need to come in person, and you don't need to be a procrastinator and wait until the last minute where you make helping students very impossible. In my particular case, for purposes of this video, I'm going to make this font a little bit larger. And as it says at the very beginning, it says in your book, and follow along on page 122, code the CSS to configure the following. Global styles for the document, use the body element selector. Alright, for the body element selector, I'm going to type the word body right there. And again, there are lots of ways to handle this. Some people put the curly brackets beside of it, some people put it under it. I tend to be one of those that puts it under there. It doesn't matter to the computer. It says to use the background color of white, and if you look in your book, you type the word background color like this, a colon, and then if you want to type the word white, you can do that, or you can use the code they've given you, which are 6 capital F letters, and then a semicolon after that. And it says the text color should be dark gray. To do that part, again, spacing is totally up to you. I just like that neatness here. The text color, you just have to put the word color, a colon, and then the code, which happens to be a lot of sixes right there. And then close this with a closing curly brace. Alright, you've defined the body. So if you look at that direction again, global styles for the document, use the body element with background color white and text color dark gray. We've completed it. You do the style rule for the H1 element in the same way. You just type in H1, put your braces, and then put in your definitions. I'm not going to do all of this for you because it's your exercise. A couple of these I will do for you. It says to do styles for an ID named nav. Now an ID is a special code that you're doing. You're making up your own program definition. H1 and body are standard definitions in the language, but you can make up your others. I can make one up called Mike Sisk. This one happens to be called nav, and because I'm using something called an ID automatically has a little pound symbol or tic-tac-toe symbol. And I'll call that nav right there because that's what they said to call it. Styles for an ID named nav that configures sky blue background color. So the only thing you'll need in here, and again, if you want to put this all in one line, that's perfectly okay. I would put background color. Now you got to type the syntax with the hyphens and the semicolons and stuff very precisely. They've given you the code for sky blue 90C7E3. You end it with a semicolon and put your closing curly bracket, or curly brace rather, there. Style for the DT element. Now DT is a standard definition term tag, so you don't have to put anything fancy, just DT and then whatever definition is in there. Now again, if you're following me exactly, I'm not typing everything in the exercise. It's up to you to do it. This is not a spectator sport where you watch me do the work. Finally, it says styles for a class named resort. A class, rather than having a pound symbol, will have a dot, so be sure that period is in front of the word resort. Again, if you want to put the little curly brace on a separate line or on the same line, it doesn't matter. Dark blue text background, or dark blue text color rather. So I put color, colon, and then pound 000033, semicolon, close it up. And you then want to save this. So what I would do is I would go to File, choose Save As, and it says in the directions to save the file as pacific.css in the folder. So it's very important, big time important, that you save this in the right folder. So I want to make sure I'm in the right place. Now for my particular folder, yours will be different from mine. But for my particular folder, I want to be sure that when I save this document that it's in the same location, the very same location as these two pages are. And it says to call it pacific.css. Now I've had students in the past to misspell this word. It is CSS. When you save the document, you should have all three items in the same location. Thank you for bearing with me as I'm having to try to work through this. So you want to have that document in there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to apply that CSS document to these other two pages. Those other two pages, namely meaning the home page and the yurts page that you already have in your folder. The question might come up right here, oh my gosh, how do I get to this code for this page, Mike? Because when I double click it, if I go over here to index and I double click it, it just gives me my document in HTML, just the display. You can right click it and you can choose open with. It will give you choices. You can go into Notepad, you can do Microsoft Word, whatever you want to do. What will happen if you open it with Notepad, you may have everything in one big long huge line like this, which sometimes is not the best way to do it. What you might want to do also as an option, again it's up to you personally, is you may want to go over to any web page on the planet that you have for that matter. You can go in and view the source and just copy and paste that source code, which is the original that I've given you in the folder provided for this exercise. Take this and put it in a Word document. And that's what I've done right here, is I've actually put this inside a Word document. So hopefully this will be a little bit easier to read for you. Just for information purposes, just for the visual component of this video, this is the home page. that you normally see. Let me get to it. I apologize for this. This is the home page that you normally see right here, and I'm going to enhance that page with the code that we have at this place. Alright, again, reading what it says in the book at step 3, launch a text editor and open the home page index.html, which is what I have on the screen right now. Associate, step A, associate the Pacific CSS external style sheet, that's the one we just created a minute ago. Add a link element in the head section to associate the web page with the Pacific CSS external style sheet file. So I'm going to go to the head section, and I'm going to isolate this on the video for visual purposes. This is the head section right here, all by itself. Here we go. This is the head section right here. Alright, if you will refer to page 110 in your book, this will help you get that link element in there. It's actually very simple. It's a little quirky at first until you get used to it. For once, students, we've got to read. Alright, what you type in at the just go right under here, and to get that link element in there, it's going to be very similar to the bottom of page 110. You'll type in the opening tag, you'll type in the word link, relative equals style sheet, exactly as it says in the book. Now the hyperlink reference is going to be whatever you named the particular sheet. Well, we named it a few minutes ago. We named it Pacific.css. So Pacific.css. And we close the tag. And that's all you have to do for the link. So basically step A is completed. This is the link statement that we need to type in for that step. Now we'll look at step B. Assign the div that contains the navigation hyperlink elements. Remember, the navigation, that's basically what you click to get from one page to the next, just your links. You're going to assign that div to the nav ID. Your code should look similar to the following. So they basically told you what to do here. So I'm going to move down to the navigation area, and again I'm going to isolate this, so if you're a very visual person you can see what's going on here. Here's the navigation area right here with the 4 hyperlinks, home and yurts and activities, all that. All I'm going to do is associate that with the nav ID, and all I have to do to take care of that is inside this very first div tag right here. So I'm making the big space. All I have to do is inside the div tag is I simply put ID equals, and in quotation marks, NAV. I don't need the pound symbol, the little tic-tac-toe, don't need anything like that. Just this part right here. So the only thing that's changed in this portion is the part that says ID equals nav. What that does in the computer program is it tells the computer when this particular set of rules is associated with it. Remember nav back in the earlier part of step 2, nav said that it would make a sky blue background color. What this is going to do, this little ID equals nav, is going to simply say to the computer, when you put up that web page, I want it to have that sky blue background that's right there. Now you might go, how in the world is it going to know about the black background white letters for heading 1? Well, that one is already built in because H1 is already part of the language. And the fact that we have linked, bear with me, the fact that we've linked the style sheet to this page, it's going to take care of the heading 1 stuff all by itself. Alright, that takes care of step B. Step C is not as complex as it sounds if you read the directions very carefully and take your time and don't become nervous. Configure a div element assigned to the ID named contact. Excuse me. Content is what it says right there, and I thought it said contact. I apologize. It's content. And what I do right there is I simply take where it says the opening content div tag should be placed on a blank line below the closing tag for the nav div. So I'm going below this guy right here. There's the closing tag right there. So I'm going below there right before it says enjoy nature and luxury. That's the main content area of the home page. So I'm going to write, again, I'm going to put div right there. And because I want it to be associated with the ID named content, I will put ID equals, and content is put in quotation marks because that's a tag that I've defined. Alright. The closing content div tag, reading part C, should be placed on a blank line above the closing body tag. I'm going to put this in a highlighted yellow so you'll have a visual of what's going on. Again, the closing content div tag should be placed on a blank line above the closing body tag. Alright, right here is the closing body tag, so I'm going to put the closing content div tag. Closing means you've always got the little / in there, and there's div right there. And again, I'll put that in yellow highlight so you can see what's going on. So here's the beginning of the tag for content, the div content, and here's the end. Take a look at that for part C, and you'll configure this especially later on. Now, we did not define the word content in our CSS style sheet a few minutes ago. We'll do that in another chapter. Alright, I'm going to do Part D in closing. Part D says to find the company name Pacific Trails Resort in the first paragraph below H2. And there it is right there. Pacific Trails Resort in the first paragraph. Paragraph starts with the letter P below the H2. So there it is. Configure a span that contains this text. Assign the span tag to the resort class. So what we're going to do right here, and again, I'm going to isolate this just for purposes of making this very clear on the video. We're going to associate a span. A span basically is when you want to take a very small part of a document and just have a special assignment of color or text or background or something to that one little teeny part of the web page. All we have to do that is just simply make a span tag. And of course, tags are always the greater than less than enclosures. So I'll put span right there. And I want to associate that span with the resort class. So again, what we do here, since it's not an ID, but it's a class, I put instead of ID equals, I put class equals, and the word resort in quotation marks. Close that tag, and then I will have a closing span tag. I'll select this one just to let you see what it looks like. And I'll have a closing span tag after the Pacific Trails Resort title. So I'll do the little closing tag, which always has the / in there. So again, if you look at these directions, we've assigned a span tag to this part of the paragraph. If you look at Part E, Part F, and Part G, you have some very similar ideas as to how these work. Just follow the directions very carefully, and that will take care of this home page. When you get to the yurts page in Step 4, you've got some very similar situations. And finally, in Step 5, when you want to update the CSS file, you'll simply add the coding to the H1 element that's necessary. I hope this will at least get you started. Now, your best bet, if you need help, is to ask each other online. Don't just depend on the instructor only. And certainly come by my office or contact me some way, message me through Blackboard if you need additional help. Don't wait until the last minute and look for miracles. That's very difficult, especially at this stage of a programming class. Hopefully this video will have helped you out.